Welcome back to Mandy. What we're about to listen to or watch is a parole hearing for a man who's been locked up for 54 years. This is going back since 1968. He was 19 when locked up. With that, let's jump into the hearing. And also, if you can, please like and subscribe. It helps the algorithm more than we know.
Committee on Parole is called back to order. The time is 9:50. Our next case is Mr. Joe Tubbs. Mr. Tubbs, would you please give us your full name and DOC number?
Joe Tubbs, 68556.
Mr. Tubbs, let me explain our process to you. First, I'm going to read some information into the record, and then we will conduct a parole interview with you. At the appropriate time, we will allow the persons who wish to speak to have their input. Currently speaking today on your behalf will be Mr. Kerry Myers, Miss Alice Gilton, who is your sister. Your attorney, Miss Jane Hogan, is here in our facility with us today. Speaking in opposition will be Miss Karen Cupid, who is the victim's daughter. And we may have another speaker, Miss Deanna Temple, who also will be present on Zoom. So do you understand our process?
I do.
At the end of that hearing, you'll have an opportunity to say whatever you'd like to say, and then Ms. Hogan will close out. Is that understandable?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Tubbs, your case has been assigned to me, so I'll begin the interview process. Okay? How old are you, Mr. Tubbs?
74.
How long have you been in prison?
54 years since 1968.
So if my math is right, it looks pretty simple. You were about 20 at the time?
20? Yes, that's correct. I was 19 at the time, with 16.
19? Right. Tell me who you were back then. What was going on with you? Who was Joe Tubbs back then?
I was in the Air Force, and the night that I got locked up, I was coming back from Shreveport. I was speeding and in the car, and I made the wrong turn. I was coming back, and I got ran off the road by 10 cars with police officers, and that's how I got discharged.
So are you telling me that you didn't commit this rape?
Well, I plead guilty to it. I'm accept responsibility. I accept the fact I did it.
Well, I understand you pled guilty, and his the file itself doesn't give me a whole lot of information, but they did find your fingerprint in that room, in that lady's room. So I need you to tell me as best you can what you did. If you tell me you didn't do it, then that's your position. But part of what I need to know today is how honest you're going to be with it.
I'm not. That's the truth. I'm not the. I have to deny. I didn't. I'm saying I'm innocent of his charge, but I'm accept responsibility. I'm pleading guilty. I plead guilty to it, and I accept the fact that by law I'm guilty.
Well, you say by law you're guilty. What does that mean? Are you telling me that you've been in prison for 54 years for something that you really didn't do?
Yes, sir, I am. You know, like I said, I can't litigate the right before this board. It's not the venue for it. But like I said,
you pled guilty. Why did you plead guilty to the charge?
I was facing the death penalty at the time, and my lawyers told me if I plead guilty, I'll be out in 10 years and 6 months. That wasn't the hardest decision to make.
Do you have any explanation as to why your fingerprint was in that room?
No, I can't explain that. Like I said, still, it's got to be further litigated. I don't think this is the right venue for it, but I'm still.
Had you ever been at that YWCA?
Ever been there? No.
Had you ever been there back then, 54 years ago?
No, I haven't. No, I didn't.
Okay, let's move on. Tell me what you've learned while you've been in prison. Tell me what kind of programs you've taken while you've been in prison.
Well, I finished body offender repair in Angola. I'm a member of Life Club right now, and I have took sex offender class. I'm graduating from that. I completed all 4 phases of that.
Tell me what you learned in sex offender class.
I learned all the how to avoid situations that would put you in a position where you commit crimes like this, like sex crimes, and all the risk factors, the 27 risk factors I learned there.
Did you learn anything about what effect rape has on victims who actually rape? Did you learn anything about that?
I know it's a horrible crime, and I don't think nobody would like to be forced to do something that they don't want to. I think that's wrong.
Have you taken any sort of victim awareness classes in addition to the sex offender treatment?
No, well, I had a not approved program. It was something like a club class they had in it, but not through the a regulated one, but for the Department of Correction. No, what happened?
Do you feel like you're the same person when you came in? I mean, you're telling me you didn't commit any crime. You're not properly in prison. So, I mean, have you changed for the better since you've been in prison? Is there anything done while you've been in prison that you believe has changed you to become a better person?
I was 19 years old when this crime was committed. I'm 74 now, and through the years, I've been doing everything I could to better myself, just in case I would get an opportunity to go back.
Tell me some of the things that you've done to better yourself. You told me that you did. You've taken some trades. You told me you've also done sex offender treatment program. It's my understanding that you have a paralegal certificate. What other certificates do you have?
I graduated from body offender school. I graduated from body offender school at Angola.
Okay. Now, you currently work in the law library. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
How long have you been in the law library?
Since 2007.
And what do you do in the law library? Tell me the kind of work. Do you help offenders with their cases sometimes? How do you work with them?
Correct. I help them with fair case for the courthouse, represent them in DB court, and sometimes we used to do represent them through judicial review proceedings in 19.
Let's talk a little bit about your disciplinary record. Now, you've been in jail, you've been in prison for 54 years, you've had 34 write-ups. You haven't had one since 2008, is that right?
That's right.
Tell me what have you done? I mean, that's excellent. It's an excellent disciplinary record. Not to have any write-ups in the last, 14 years? So tell me how you've been able to go for the last 14 years without any sort of write-up.
Well, I stayed busy trying to do positive things. Reading the law library. It kind of keep you busy, keep you well occupied. So you ain't got time to get in nothing negative. And I try to stay away from this stuff anyway.
Are you also involved in the JCs? Is that right?
Well, the building I'm in, the education building, have a lot of club activities in there. And even though I'm not an active member on the roster, I do go sit in on some of it sometimes, listen to everybody.
Got a certificate from them, appreciation certificate from them?
Yes, sir.
Tell me about the Lifers Club. What is that?
Well, it's a body of everybody with a life sentence that's at house today with this member of the club, and we talk about different things that they could better ourselves while we're in prison. What we do is to try to get out of prison, stuff like that.
What is your transition plan? I see Mr. Myers is here from the Louisiana Parole Project, and Ms. Hogan is your lawyer. Tell me what you hope to do if you get an early release.
Well, I get out, I would like to go see my sister in Texas and find me a job and do what I can at my age, you know.
What sort of work do you think you can do? I'm 76, you're 74, and you look a lot younger than I do. So looks like you're in pretty good shape.
I could do any kind of work they ask me to do.
You think you could continue to do automotive repair work that you're trained to do?
Yes, I can. Yes, sir.
Do you have any interest in working in the legal field? I mean, you've got a paralegal certificate. You worked for a long time in the law library.
I love to work in the legal system. Yeah.
What sort of satisfaction have you gotten working there?
Well, every time I win a case, I feel like not going to college to get a degree in law, I feel like I don't accomplish it. It's just a good feeling you get from it.
How does it feel to help people who are in prison with their problems?
It feels good. I mean, it's I can't explain it, but it's just a good feeling. It's like a glow all over you. You help somebody get out.
Now, I hear you saying you didn't do this, but in fact, a lady was severely raped and beaten. Have you given any thought to what actually happened to her and how badly she was treated and what has gone on with her life since that happened to her?
Well, that's the question. It'll go back to the fact. If it happens, I mean, I know it happened, but for me to say that I did it, I still can't say I did it. I just don't feel good saying this there, because I don't want to lie to the board. I feel like I said I'm innocent, but like I said, I plead guilty to it, and that can't be changed. But I still say I'm innocent of charge.
Oh, I hear that, but what do you think she actually went through? I mean, you took some sex offender treatment. They teach you what victims go through. What do you think she actually experienced? How horrible that experience must have been?
I managed to no, it had to be a traumatic experience for her. It had to be traumatized, like beaten, whatever. Well, it had to be a bad experience for her, and she probably has lived the rest of her life.
Did you realize that your conviction carries with it a lot of repercussions? You're going to have to register, you're going to have to notify, you're going to have to live in specific places as a sex offender. Do you understand all of those things?
That's what I do.
You have to register, you have to notify people when you move and all of those things. Are you aware of all of those things?
Yes, I am.
Now, where will you be living in Texas? I know you're going to the parole project. What is your residency in Texas? Where does who is it you said you were going to be living with in Texas?
My sister.
Yeah.
I was guilty in Waco, Texas.
Now, there's going to be some restrictions on where you can live. And you're going to have to make sure that that residence is an appropriate place for you to go to.
Okay.
Warden, what can you tell us about Mr. Tubbs?
Well, Mr. Marabella, his record pretty well speaks for itself. He's been in this institution since the year 2000. He's been a model prisoner pretty much his entire time at this institution. He's worked in the law library since 2008. He does a good job there. No complaints from either staff or the offender population relative to his work in as an inmate counsel substitute. He's active in inmate activities and inmate clubs. He participates in a lot of things at the institution. I can't say anything negative about the time, but the the 22 plus years that I've known Joe Tubbs, he's been a model prisoner for this institution. He's caused no problems whatsoever. He's always got a positive attitude and a positive outlook on life, and you know, he's a good citizen of this institution.
Thank you very much, Warden. I appreciate your comments. Mr. Tubbs, this is your only arrest, is that right?
Yes, sir. Well, I had a misdemeanor in Texas year back in 60 at the Air Force. I think that was a little battery or something like that.
And did you, what was your discharge from the Air Force?
Because of this conviction.
Because of this conviction?
Right.
You are a low risk. You do have law enforcement opposition and you have victim opposition. There's very little you can do about that. But I do want to put that on the record. The question? Now we'll hear from your supporters and then we'll hear from the opposition. Let's first hear from Mr. Kerry Myers. Mr. Myers, good morning.
Yes, and good morning. Kerry Myers with the Louisiana Parole Project. 19-year-old Joe Tubbs had never had any previous felony convictions when he was arrested for this crime 54 years ago. As a young airman, not from Louisiana, arrested, he pleaded guilty, as maybe many 19-year-olds might have, to avoid being threatened with the death penalty, because he was told at the time he would serve 10 years and 6 months. We're here because of Act 544, which restored parole eligibility, or gave parole eligibility to that group of people, because it was a contract, in fact. Mr. Tubbs has an excellent record. I will say that Mr. Tubbs is not going to come directly to Parole Project because of the registration requirements. He has begun his ICOTS application. It is in process right now to Texas. Upon approval of that ICOTS, should he be granted, he will go directly to his sisters in Texas, and Parole Project will provide all the support that we can provide remotely through Zoom, through check-ins, and assist in any possible way that we can. It just makes no sense for him to come and pay a registration fee in Louisiana and pay another registration fee in Texas 4 weeks, 5 weeks later. Mr. Tubbs has, you know, his skills, his work as a inmate counsel substitute, his age at 74, his disciplinary record, 34 in 54 years and none since 2008. The comments of the warden. This is a man, as you can see, who is ready to go home. He's ready to leave the institution and not use valuable resources that could be used for someone else. We believe in Mr. Tubbs. We have since the beginning when we've been working with Mr. Tubbs. He was part of this initiative when we were working on the initial bill for Act 544, and we knew exactly at the time that Mr. Tubbs would be an excellent candidate for this. And we just asked the board to grant his parole today in light of all the things that has been said.
Thank you, Mr. Myers. We appreciate your comments. Ms. Alice Gilton.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you very well. Please give us your name and tell us what you'd like us to know about your brother.
Okay, this is Alice Gilton, Joe Nathan Tubbs' sister. And Joe was always raised as a Christian in a loving home and nurturing home with great morals. He would be surrounded with loving and supporting family and friends that have a positive outlook on life. I have provided him a home with me with love, and also he has a brother that loves and will support him. We, him and siblings, are getting old, as we would like to spend the rest of our days together. And that's it. And we love him and we want him home. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gilton. Appreciate your comments. We'll now hear from the opposition. Ms. Karen Cupid.
The regulations specifically say the pilot must check the notice before they take off. For Jasper,
Ms. Cupid, can you hear? Good morning.
Are you talking to me?
Yes, are you Ms. Cupid?
No, I'm finished, yes.
Okay. Ms. Karen Cupid?
Just a second, sir.
Okay.
I'm here. Hold on just a second.
Okay.
Hold on just a second.
Ma'am, we will.
For some reason, this is acting foolish. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you. The
Okay, I'm sorry.
video is a little frozen, but we can certainly hear you.
Give me just a second. Let me see if I can get out of this thing. I don't know what happened.
We can hear you. We just don't have video. We have a still shot.
Okay,
of
I
you.
think I'm back.
Okay.
I'm back. I am Karen Cupid. While not a biological daughter of the victim, I am very much one of her loved ones, and she considers me her daughter. And I do take it as my responsibility to help take care of her. She is now 80 years old, and she has lived with this for 54 years. It is something that has been a part of her life ever since it happened. It was brutal. It was beyond comprehension as far as I'm concerned. When I first found out about it, I was completely freaked out, but completely in awe of her and the strength she showed in recovering from a brutal, heinous attack that I can't even imagine. This man has been a part of her life, whether he realizes it or not, since he did this. And I can tell you, periodically she asks me, Karen, do you think he's still in jail? And thank God there's enough information on the internet and such that I can go do the research and go back and tell her he's still there. And I can't explain to you the look of relief on her face when I give her that report, because it is something that has affected her whole life. She wasn't even able to have children because of what this man did to her. Yet she loves children and never could have them for herself. He left her in a bad position. She did overcome. And she is a wonderful Christian human being and one of the sweetest ladies you will ever meet. But this still hangs over her. And she will live with this to the day she dies. And as far as I'm concerned, and I believe Deanna will agree with me on this as we've discussed it, he should stay incarcerated because he committed a crime that deserved that punishment. He needs to stay there. She deserves the peace of mind knowing that that is where he is. So I'm asking you and I'm begging you to leave him where he is. He's right now, he's even denying that he even did it. I can't fathom this. So I ask you to leave him where he is and let him serve the life sentence that he basically gave to her. So thank you for listening to me.
Welcome. Thank you very much, Ms. Cupid. Ms. Temple, do you wish to speak?
I believe Miss Cupid said everything that needed to be said. Miss Andrews has lived with this her entire life, and I'm very emotional right now. She has lived in fear her entire life, and it has really affected the productivity that she could have had, you know, throughout her life. I agree with everything Ms. Cubitt said. He needs to stay there. Ms. Andrews needs to live out the rest of her life in peace. And we need that peace of knowing we've done everything we can do to protect her.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Temple. Mr. Tubbs, is there anything you'd like to say before Ms. Hogan finishes up?
Well, I like to say, I feel for both the one that spoke for the victim. I agree with her that the woman had a traumatic experience, and I just don't know how to explain it, but I wish I could say something for her, but I don't know how to explain it.
Thank you, Mr. Tubbs. Appreciate your comments. Ms. Hogan?
Thank you, Mr. Marabella, and everyone, for allowing me to speak. We are here asking this board to evaluate the three claims. This recidivism agreement. Act 544 exists because at the time Mr. Tubbs pled guilty in 1969, a life sentence provided release after 10.5 years. And Mr. Tubbs was contract with the state, waiving his rights to trial and everything else, because as we described at the time, he was 19 years old, facing either the death penalty or the potential of release in 10.5 years, and it wasn't really much of a consideration at all. Of course, we would think that the law changed, the goalpost shifted, and Mr. Tubbs, 54 years later, is still in prison. I think that in enacting Act 544, the legislature recognized that there are a lot of promises. There's a reason why Act 544 is limited to those who feel guilty and not those who trial and contested their innocence, all at trial. People plead guilty for all kinds of reasons. Even if there is claims of litigation, claims of innocence, they plead guilty. We face with a decision as to punishment A or the potential of this contract or this bargain with the state. And so recognition of the fact that Act 544 was enacted, limited to like guilt prior to 1971. Mr. Tubbs is now parole eligible. The contract is finally being honored. And given that his risk to society is minimal, pursuant to his IDER score, 34 write-ups in 54 years, the Warden's comments about how he has been a model individual for the last 20 years, or 22 years since the week. I'd also mention he's been before the pardon board on 3 different occasions and had 2 favorable recommendations which were not signed. But his fitness to return to society is there. He has an out-of-state plan, which has already been done. And I would ask this board to grant his release to the interstate parole agreement in Waco, Texas, with any conditions that are deemed appropriate. And as Mr. Marabella mentioned, he will be on supervision for the rest of his life. He will be a registered sex offender, so he will not be at any risk for future recidivism that is not addressed by his already apparently low IDER score. This board feels sure that he will and his whereabouts will be known at all times until he passes away. So we would ask this board to grant Mr. Tubbs release to the interstate parole agreement in Texas.
Thank you. So, board ready to go? Yes. Okay. Mr. Tubbs, first off, to Ms. Cupid and Ms. Temple, I do appreciate the courage it took to be here today, and I certainly respect what y'all have done all of these years in protecting the victim in this case. It was a horrible case, no question. Mr. Tubbs, one of the things I like to see is someone accepting responsibility and admitting that they did something that they did. But I've also been 50 years in the criminal justice system. I was a VA, I was a public defender, I was a criminal defense lawyer for a lot of years, I was a judge for a lot of years on the criminal bench. And I know a lot of times people plead guilty to things that they didn't do, specifically because they don't want to go to jail for the rest of their lives, and they want a death penalty. And it depends on who your lawyer is and what the odds are, what the concerns are. The record that I had before me is sketchy. I don't have a lot of information about what the facts were. In fact, what I do have was very sketchy about the proof that you, in fact, were the person that committed the crime. There was a suggestion that there was a fingerprint found in there. So, having said all of that, there may be a legitimate reason why you may not have done this, or why you would continue to say you didn't do it, yet you still pled guilty. So I accept that. I need to look today at who you are and what you've done. You've been in prison for 54 years. You have done a lot of very positive things. You have not had a write-up in 14 years. You have excellent comments from the warden about who you are and what you've accomplished and what you've done. You've got a lot of support. You've got support from your family. You've got support from a good transition plan. You will be on supervision for the rest of your life, or you'll have to register as a sex offender. My vote today would be to grant your parole to the ICOTS to Waco, Texas, to live with your sister, to be supervised or to be under the supervision of the Louisiana Parole Project to assist you with all of the things that you need to be assisted with, including helping, making sure, of course, your sister's residence is going to have to be approved before you can even go there. You then have to follow all of the rules and all of the regulations required as a sex offender. I'm also going to, and I know the Parole Project is going to do this, and ask that you get a substance abuse evaluation, mental health evaluation, and follow whatever recommendations that they have. So I'm one of 3 votes, and that's my vote. Good luck to you, Mr. Rocha.
Thank you, Mr. Marabella. Mr. Chubb,
Yes, sir.
before I vote, I want to address that feeling you get when you just won a case. I was a law librarian for 25 years. I know exactly what that feeling is. When somebody's looking for information and you help somebody to win a case or prepare a brief, it's a good feeling when that person is successful. And I know exactly the feeling that you feel when someone that you help win a case. Based upon the positive remarks by Warden Goodwin, said you were a model citizen for the last 22 years, an excellent transition plan with the Louisiana Parole Project, an age, and the length of your incarceration. My vote is to grant your release conditionally upon a review ICOT to the state of Texas. Good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Rocha. Ms. Wise.
Mr. Tubbs, first of all, I just want to acknowledge Ms. Temple and Ms. Cupid for the courage it took for you all to be here today and have your say. But Mr. Tubbs, this is about going forward. What you have done since that, because you can't go back and change that. And long before you had even an opportunity or even a thought of parole, you've been doing some good. And I want to applaud you for that. So my vote is to grant as well under the conditions that's already been stated by my colleague. Guess what she's speaking of?
Good luck to you, Mr. Tubbs. Your parole has been granted with those conditions. I think we're done at Wade. Warden, thank you very much for your help. We'll be adjourned. Wonderful weekend and Happy New Year to you.
Yes, sir. You have a great day. Thank you.
Wow. Let's unpack this. Whew. I'm going to start unpacking this by saying that it is my belief that this man is 100% innocent. 100% innocent. So everything I say from this point on, if you do disagree with me, please keep in mind that I am saying this with the entire belief in my heart that he is innocent. Now, take heart aside, just from the proven statistical data that exists today, and I'll put in the reference, there are a lot of innocent people in our prison system. According to the Innocent Project, there have been 281 that have been exonerated by DNA. And that's a conservative number. It is. There's an estimate of 1% of the US prison population, approximately 20,000 people are falsely convicted. And I found numbers where it goes as high as 5 to 6%. So again, conservative numbers, 1%. Since 1980s, there have been as many as 850 exonerations nationwide, which is a small number, but that's more about our legal system than being a problem, in my opinion. There are the number of exonerations versus the number that are actually innocent. This man, it's like Shawshank Redemption. It really is, in the sense of how he threw himself at the law. If you Google his name, I couldn't believe it. It's just page after page of different court cases that he's filed. Appeals for his own case, appeals for other cases, appeals for write-ups that he's gotten. He came in and just really knew, he said, this isn't the venue to argue this. I mean, he understands the law. And to think that one of the most flimsiest pieces of evidence that you can have is one fingerprint in a room. A fingerprint technology, especially back then, there's a lot of problems with it because it's very easy to corrupt it. And to think that there could be police officers in the state of Louisiana that might, as Mr. Marabella said, sketchy, that's believable. That is very believable. And the idea that he pled guilty is something that we've seen over and over and over again. It happens over and over and over again, even today. He was 19 years old, and his lawyer probably told him to do it. He's facing the death penalty. He probably would have been convicted if he didn't plead guilty. And he was promised 10 years and 6 months. And this isn't the first time that we've seen this. Many people pled guilty for 10-year and 6-month sentence. And then it was 1969. So a year later, 1968, 2 years later, they changed the law. And they said, no, you're not going to get 10 years and 6 months. You're getting life. I think we just watch a little bit of history. This, again, like I started, is because I believe he's innocent. There was a victim that was brutally, her life was changed forever. But to say with a certainty that it's this man, no, at this point we have to make our own judgment calls and our own, and I'm, like, again, saying that I believe he was innocent. We have a real Karen in the room. Karen Cupid. Now, From her perspective and her friend's perspective, they believe he's guilty. So it wouldn't be fair to me to go on a rant about them, but I have to tell you, I am really tempted. You know, there are so many different angles, but because in their hearts they believe he's guilty, it wouldn't be fair. But man, I was tempted to, or am. I knew Mr. O'Shea was a court librarian, so I knew he would hit it off. I mean, he's been saying he's been innocent all along. He's even thrown himself at understanding law. He's filed appeals on his own, appeal after appeal after appeal. Go look it up. I love the way that he described that feeling of joy when he wins a case for others. Man, what a strong, look at his age. He's like full of vigor and health. And he's like, I can be a mechanic. I want to see him work for like a parole project. I mean, that man should be behind a desk, not with a wrench in his hand. He can help a lot of people. If you're going to take the other side on this and say, no, I believe he's guilty, because then then what is being said is you're saying that there's zero, is that the police did the right job, the detectives did the right job, he pled guilty, and there's one fingerprint. Sorry. And you know, when he started the story, when he's driving the car, and then it's like, I was like, and then Mr. Marabella brings it up, like, oh no, this is going to be like just another terrible case. What did he learn all these years in prison? But no, I believe him, and this is it is gut-wrenching to think that someone would have spent all this time being innocent, locked up for life. But he didn't, he hasn't been bitter. He's done the best with it. And his day of freedom is coming, and I'm so happy for him. Really am. I love to hear your thoughts on this. I know this is going to, I think this is going to create certain types of dialogue, and it's okay for us to have different opinions in the Mandu family. It's our opinions, right? If you are on the belief that he's guilty, then like I said at the beginning, throw away my comments. My comments are only relevant with the aspect that I believe he's entirely innocent. With that, I will let you go.